Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of our special series through the MM360 Global Movement. We're calling Chatting with Slava the Jordanian. I am your host, Slava the Jordanian, and as some of you know me on Instagram and social media as STJ. We are here with my one and only JD Yusef. How you doing, Yusef?
Doing well. Thank you so much for having me, Dr. Slava.
Of course, always. Now, remember, this series is all about telling our stories, the stories of our immigration journey, in order to uncover and discover tools and lessons and inspirations, how to champion and how to win our challenges as an immigrant, whether you're considering to leave your home world, come to a new world, or you are already first generation American here and you're trying to make ends meet. So just as a reminder, the message behind the series is to master an unlimited mindset by eliminating limiting beliefs and thoughts. And we're going to tap into that compared to last episode that we talked about the traditional gender role expectation and the effect of that on our well-being and also on our mental health, which is one of the episodes we're very, very excited about to have in the future for sure. All right, let's jump right into it, Yusef, since we had a lot of practice. So today we would like to discuss the reasons of migrating, what fuels us and what triggers us to leave everything that we know and everybody that we love behind in our home world and embark into a new world. And what does that journey and that story feels like and that journey looks like? So let's start. I would like JD Yusef to define for us the concept of displacement as a first generation American. Remember, Yusef was born in California. He lives in Alabama. He lived a little bit in Florida too. So he is a first generation American where his parents are, your parents are first generation immigrants here, or? Okay. All right. So can you just give us a quick overview of what the displacement emotions and the displacement journey look like for example, your grandparents or your parents? You choose whoever you would like to share with us.
Yes, certainly. And thank you so much. And I think the impetus for such migration, right, whether it's immigration or refugee, right, it's safety at the end of the day, right? It's you have this fear that either because of the political instability or just again resources, water is a huge thing and will continue to be a huge thing as we progress into the future. So but it's life at the end of the day. You want to protect what you have, so I guess that's going to be the impetus of a lot of these movements across the world, right? It's not something that's just reserved for our people, if you will. But with that being said, being children of a diaspora, it's a balancing act. You're coming to a new world. You're trying to survive. You have to have a reckoning with yourself. What's important, what's going to help me, all doing that while not losing your identity. That's the most important thing, right? Because that's the easy thing to do. Easy thing to do is just assimilate 100% and just, and I guess that is easier, right? It's maybe less stressful. I mean, I can see from other second, third generation Arab Americans, they don't have any either inclination or a care in the world of what's happening back home, right? And so maybe that is easier. I don't know, but it's certainly a struggle, and it's our story is the definition of struggle, right?
Yes. We have a saying in Arabic, الغربة صعبة والثمن غالي. Being a stranger, being in a strange country or a strange place is hard, like you said, especially with the identity crisis. If you have the personality style that's very important for you to belong, or you feel that belonging anywhere you are, that's tough. It's going to take a lot more work than a person, like you said, is going to take the easy way out. Either shed everything and modernize their lifestyle, modernize their beliefs, and shed all the traditional, gender role expectation or traditional spiritual beliefs. Or I've seen it on the other end too, where a lot of immigrants, they don't want to modify anything. They basically living in a micro model of their traditional home into that new world. And that could be okay if when you're young, but when you start getting older, especially at the high school level, and I hear it from my husband that he came from Egypt when he was 2 years old, that he did not struggle until high school. When you hit high school, you started to access a real world, the adult world a little bit. And that's when you start asking a question, do I belong? How do I conduct myself? Do I have, high sense of self-value, high sense of self-awareness, social awareness? Because, when you're younger than high school, you are protected and you are pretty much conditioned around what your parents' household have provided. But then when you start steering your own life, your own way, you're like, wait, hold on a second. I need to learn new ways. I need to learn new tools and new lessons in order for me to fit in as an adult in this new world. Fitting as a child in a new world, you're following your parents, right? You're definitely following your parents' lead. But then when you start creating your own life and you want to, spread your wings, you have to create your own life. And that's a very, very important point. So I'm guessing that your grandparents have been displaced, of course, because as Palestinians in Jerusalem, and then they came straight to United States? Or did they stop somewhere else?
So yes, they came straight to the United States because people of their village had already made that migration, and so there was a constant contact, communication, right? And it was. I think they did the sponsorship paperwork, but one of the original places they were going to come to was Michigan, and then ended up being Alabama on the other side. So.
Yeah, that's very interesting. So they went to either Michigan or Alabama, and they chose Alabama?
Alabama over Michigan, I think.
How come you were born in California, though?
So my mother met my father, and my father's side of the family, when they came to this country, they came to New Jersey, and then from Jersey to California. But my mother remembers as a child coming here, and remember seeing the number 200 everywhere. It was the bicentennial year, 1970.
Oh, yeah.
So that was all over the JFK airport and everything. So it's very, very interesting. So, yes.
That's interesting. But it's amazing how when you are displaced, also we talked about the rejection feeling, right? You're being rejected. So, okay, now I'm rejected. And it's really hard to accept rejection coming from your own people, coming from your own country, coming from your own realm, basically, your own world. But there's nothing you can do about it. So you have to redirect yourself, and you might stumble, like Yusef's family. They went to, California, Alabama, Florida, Virginia, Michigan, and then they finally found their niche. And they settle in. Now, when you settle in, you have to start to heal, right? And we talked about you have to design and you have to transform into whether a completely different life or a life that has both flavors. If they have our old home or our birthplaces in our new world. So do you want to have a combination and hybrid of that lifestyle, or do you want to shed everything, or you want to stick to the traditional? Those are really the three options I believe every immigrant will have. And that's when the struggle starts, because you are basically fighting within yourself. Should I shed that? Should I embrace that? Should I keep this? And that's what we're talking about, the process of designing after you heal and after you settle down. So rejection, definitely, I think it's one of the most common reasons that humans will displace themselves or get displaced by others, whether a political system or lack of, like we said, resources, lack of education, lack of just a clean water. You want to displace yourself, and you can displace yourself from from your village or your town into a bigger city within your home world just to find easy access to water, easy access to food, easy access to job opportunities. So displacement doesn't have to be political. That's all I'm saying. But that's very interesting. Now, the stage of deciding to leave because you don't agree with the reason of displacement, then you're dragging all that emotional baggage with you, right? The resentment, the hate, the bitterness, it's not fair, I'm the victim, I can't believe I'm doing this, I don't want to do this, I want to stay home. So you have all that baggage of emotions. Those emotions, and we talked about it, is either going to fuel your drive or is going to keep pulling you back, and you will stay behind in your achievement and your fulfillment. And that is when you have to decide, should I master an unlimited mindset in order for me to take advantage of all the unlimited possibilities and resources that I can make a better life out of? Because that's what I sacrificed. I left everything that I know and everybody that I love to have a better life, right? So whether you become successful or not too successful, or you don't meet your goals, it doesn't really matter as long as you go through the process of healing, designing, and in order for you to transform. Because I don't believe the transformation is going to happen, and we talked about that, Yusef, if you don't heal. But probably some of our listeners are asking, what are immigrants healing from? Can you elaborate on that and share some thoughts with us?
Yeah, absolutely. So the process of healing is a journey to say the least, but I think where it comes from is this generational trauma, and identifying how to properly heal is kind of the issue, right? So you said something earlier about failure, rejection. Like in my father's side of the family, when they came here, they struggled in New Jersey. It was very, very difficult on them. Also, not only new environment, but new culture, new weather. And so I guess they ended up going to California for new opportunities. But then once in California, again, it's a jungle. You're trying to survive, right? So the process of healing is kind of, not on the forefront, right? So, again, it's survival, right? But at the end of the day, these things that you kind of put off will rear themselves, either in your personal interactions or in your future families, interactions and experiences. So, and I've seen that and experienced that, right?
Yes, absolutely. Now, I guess my question is, so did your dad seek any education here in the United States, or he just came and start working?
Yes, so education wasn't on the forefront. I guess they had that working mentality, and I guess my dad had some sort of interaction and kind of, went to the education route, which is very different from, my mother's side of the family, where again, they would constantly talk about education, right? A lot of my mother's side of the family, they couldn't afford an education, right? So they did whatever they could do, either find a trade or, so just to supplement something. Again, education was something that you could not take from someone, right? Coming from a history of our things taken from us, our home taken from us, right? Our livelihood. So, but yeah, education is essential to our people for sure.
So, what I'm hearing is your paternal family, right? They're more into labor and finding job and working, and your maternal side of the family a lot more into the education part. Is that correct? Am I getting?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
Right. So you being part of both families, how did you see that? How did you process that as, let's say, a 13-year-old when you realize, okay, I'm going to do something of my life with my life. Were you pro education? It's like, no, I'm just going to do what my dad did. I'm going to jump into labor and do my thing. Or were you more attracted to, obviously you were attracted to education. Now you're a lawyer. But do you remember when did that trigger your passion? Like, I got to go to school. I don't want to be that, but I want to be this. Do you remember?
Yeah, it was actually working at a young age, 12, 13, 14 years old, working at an Italian butcher shop, cleaning up after school, right? I liked that. I liked working with my hands, even right out of law school, a very unorthodox path through law school and then outside of law school, but graduating during the pandemic, nothing is available. I'm doing construction right out of law school. I love working with my hands, right? So it's very, very different. So, and again, I guess I come from that mentality that nothing is beneath me, but also like I do know my value. I try to remain humble as best as I can. But yeah, it's certainly a compromise, right?
Yes, it's absolutely, and it's a balance, and I love the fact that you did certain things out of your comfort zone, but you discovered that you enjoyed those things. Other than, instead of saying, I invested in myself, I went to law school, now I'm a lawyer, this is beneath me. But it's fascinating how you are willing and open to take on certain jobs that does not pertain to your education. But see how beautiful that is? You actually experience both worlds, Yusef. You're now the intellect in your own field. There's nothing high unless you get your PhD of law. This is, you tapped out as far as your profession. You're a lawyer, right? You're a logistic lawyer. But at the same time, you have experienced what you probably dad experienced every single day as a laborer. How did that feel? Did you draw any lessons from it?
Certainly the work ethic, right? And I think you can attest to this as well. Our work ethic is,
easy.
Right, right. To say the least.
People, tone it down, relax. Till the end of the world. Yes.
Right. So, but again, it stems from that drive, that wanting to succeed, to have a leg up, because we do come from this story of struggle.
Yeah.
And I think you can elaborate to that, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, like I said before, I've been in dentistry for about 26 years, and being in the public service as a healthcare worker or healthcare provider, I've heard so many different stories, even within the United States, like families that they are fifth generation U.S. There could be, Irish, Polish, German, and it's fascinating how if your bloodline starts with an immigrant family, that nagging, demanding voice in your head, work harder, work harder, work harder, is still in your head. And I've talked, like I said, so many different people through the 26 years, whether, and through the 30 years I've been here in this country, whether they're new immigrants or they're established immigrants or second generation Americans, it's still, they tell you, we came here to work. And even when COVID hit, the only ones that were complaining and they want to go back to work are the immigrant Americans. Talk to everybody through, texting and talking to each other and calling each other. It's like, hey, what are you guys doing? It's like, we're losing our minds. We did not come to this country to stay in our homes, especially as a female business owner. And I kept saying, if I wanted to stay home, I would have stayed home in my home world. Got married, got settled. I had 3 opportunities to marry very, very, very well and be served day and night every day of my life for the rest of my life. But I chose not to. So it's funny, when even COVID hit, I used to say, if I wanted to stay home, I would have just stayed home, and I would not sacrifice all of this. I would have never went through the process of migrating and working real hard. But that's fascinating. I think, again, because of the displacement, right, process, we are forced to leave for circumstances that are beyond our control, right? Then we come to the new world and we try really, 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 really hard to stay in control of everything, including planting that fear of failing, fear of not achieving, fear of not meeting expectations, because all we think about is, hey, we sacrificed everything, we better succeed, because we did not succeed in our home world, we got rejected. If we don't get if we are not successful here in our new world, we are going to be rejected in a different way, and we can't have that. Do you know what I'm saying? And that's why we use fear, one of the many emotions, to drive our engine that will not stop working. And that stems, again, from the nature of every single immigrant leaving their home world into the new world. Because if we don't use that fear, we almost believe that we're going to lose that ambition. We're going to lose that drive. Now, the question to you, that did you see that fear as an emotion through your family, whether you're maternal family or paternal family, as an immigrant, that drove or fueled that engine, that work labor mentality?
Certainly. Fear is a very powerful emotion. And I think this fear stemmed from, again, the experiences from back home, and also wanting to protect your family, right? From any sort of calamity, right? But it certainly was a driving force. You know, again, getting out of your comfort zone is going to be very, very important here. But that's going to require you to kind of overcome some of your limiting beliefs, as you allude to time and time again. But it certainly is a main factor in, I guess you can call it motivation. Right.
Yes.
I don't always agree with it, but it's very, very powerful.
No, let us. We want to know why you don't agree with it. Please share with us.
So, fear to me is this this false sense of like if you do something, it's going to protect you at the end of the day. But it's also very counterintuitive, because if you're not getting out of your comfort zone, and you have to kind of be okay with, you being fearful, right? Because that's part of it. But growth is on the other side of discomfort. So that's always resonated with me. I've personally experienced it. And so that's why I don't agree with it being, a necessary fact. But I mean, again, I say this, and, you can't tell, my grandmother who's been displaced and who's coming here, and she has 7 kids in a new world, right? You can't tell her not to be scared, so there's just different ways of approaching it,
Yeah. And it's very interesting. I agree with you 100%. It's almost practicing or remembering to be fearful kept me safe. And I know a concept that you have to wrap, around your head, but because
interesting.
Yeah, like it kept me safe because I built those boundaries around me to keep me safe, so nobody can dupe me into doing something I don't want to do. So it keeps me from, and that's at least mentally, that I believe, those are beliefs, keeps me from having people to lure me, mislead me into something, in a situation that's not unfavorable situation, meeting the wrong guy, marrying the wrong guy, living in the, the wrong area, giving up on my dream or becoming a dentist. That's the fear that kept me safe. And you constantly, remembering the lessons from your parents saying that, don't do that, it's going to hurt. So it's like, okay, I'm not going to do it because I don't want to be hurt. I want to feel safe. Don't talk to that person because it's going to lie to you or going to deceive you. All right, I'm going to stay away from this type of personality because I want to protect myself, because I don't want to be lured into something uncomfortable or, like I said, unfavorable situation. So to me, fear from age 19, from the time I came in until probably 5 years ago, served me very, very well. Then I realized that there's nothing for me to fear. I don't need that level of protection. So why am I still fearful? And that's when I hired a life coach to help me redesign my values and my core beliefs. One of them is to release the fear. Now, that said, fear is always going to be part of me because I'm an immigrant. I'm not even first generation American, right? But I am not going to practice it. I'm not going to exercise it to the level I used to exercise it in the past in order to achieve what I needed to achieve at this point. Because now I have a different roles. I'm within a different, I'm practicing my values in a different capacity, right? Whether with the MM360 global movement, whether as a public speaker, whether being on the radio show locally, on a podcast, meeting new people, owner of franchise. Those are all new roles I have created for myself. And I need to make sure that I'm using the values that are going to serve my role right now. Now, coming back to Yusef, you went from law school, you graduate from law school, then you have some odd jobs because of COVID, right? So did you build different values as you experienced the labor part of life, or you didn't feel that they changed anything in you?
No, it wasn't like a dramatic thing or anything discouraging, honestly. Kind of in the moment, kind of got to deal with it, and then you're confident that you're going to embark on other things. So it wasn't anything debilitating. Now, I don't think others would have done what I have done or did, right? Just because of the sheer fact is, they look at themselves now in a different way, just because you have a certain type of education. But like, again, we don't come from that. So, yeah, again, in the spirit of being humble, like nothing is beneath us. Our culture doesn't allow us to take money for things that's not earned, stuff like that. These core values that, by the way,
honorable, right?
And very American, by the way, I should say,
Yes.
right? That, so very, very unique in a lot of these things. But honestly, I feel like it just helped me all around because I'm more relatable. I don't want to ever not be unrelatable, so I think that's the most important thing.
Why is that important to you? Is it important to you as just in general, as an American, civilized, educated, individual of society, or as the child of an immigrant that's important to you?
A great question. I'm glad you actually asked this because being first generation Arab American and you thinking you're American, let's just say that, right? And then, your experiences in life kind of tell you, no, well, I guess I'm not American. But then, so at the end of the day, it's to basically help tell our story. We're not very much different than, our neighbor, right? It's to almost humanize us because while the world is dehumanizing us and dehumanizing our people, like I'm telling you, I'm here in the flesh and I'm just like you. That's really what I want to tell you at the end of the day. Maybe without even just telling you, just showing you, just watch me. I'm like you. That's it.
Yeah, we're all human, right? We're made of skin and blood and nervous system and heart and kidneys, and our liver is the same. Now, how we process things is a little bit different because genetically, our genetic map, right, that identify certain processes that we can do and also identify certain processes we cannot do. So, but yeah, at the end of the day, we're all human. That's why we're telling our stories for the sake of humanity. And I say it all the time on Instagram, and I say it all the time when I tell my story. That's well said. So now, the last thing I want to discuss is the multicultural adaptability. And I know we're not going to we have just about 15 minutes left. But that is the concept multicultural adaptability, that the concept I created in order for me to understand our advantage and the advantage we actually sit in. So give you an example. When I came to this country, I wanted to modernize myself. So like, I'm American, I want to be Westernized, I want to be European, da da da. And then after a while, I realized that's exhausting. It's very hard because, again, we have to constantly be fighting against the negative of feeling shame, of feeling that you betrayed your ancestors, that you're stripping your roots out of your values and out of your traditional beliefs. But unfortunately, that process had to happen. Do you know what I'm saying? By releasing all these emotions. So my next point is the multicultural adaptability. When I was going through the process as a 19-year-old, 20-year-old, and then I got married at 23 to a American Egyptian. He came here when he was 2 years old. He was born in Egypt, but he is more an American than even first generation American. And I felt like, you know what? I felt like I need to either wipe one identity and adapt another identity. Until 2 years ago, when I met my life coach, because I told her I'm struggling. I don't know who I am, where I fit. And she said, Slava, why are you putting so much pressure on yourself to be one identity over the other? Why can't you be both? And that was like, it's a very simple concept. So she said, instead of telling yourself, I want to be this or that, you should start telling yourself it's a language that we have to learn in order to disrupt that mindset, right? She said, why can't you say, I am this and that? All I had to do, switch or to and that by itself alone healed me from the struggle of trying to find out who I am. So, and then I realized the concept of multicultural adaptability. We do have the advantage that we can relate, we can embrace, we can adapt, and we can understand, and we can identify more than one culture. How powerful that advantage is. Before, I used to be, it's a disadvantage. I have to be either or. But now I changed my mindset, disrupted that old mindset, and created a new mindset that I can be both, and that is an advantage. Now, I'm married for 32 years. I don't have kids. Yusef is still young and single. So eventually he's going to have children of his own. And my question to you, Yusef, are you going to teach your new generation, your offsprings, to be both, or give them the freedom and the right to pick one over the other?
So I've actually thought about this, and not necessarily in my own self, but looking at my brother, my sister-in-law, and their children. They're going to be second generation Arab American, and I think about what does it mean to them to actually come from back home? Is that something that you want to teach them? And I think it is, because again, going back to the whole cliche, if you don't know where you come from, you don't know where you're going. And I think it's powerful to know some of the stories that our people experienced, our family experienced firsthand, right? It's not just a story that's in some book, this actually affected us, changed the trajectory of our lives. I mean, that's really what it is. Making this small little move, but it's huge, and it has generational reverberations. But with that being said, it's incredibly important to actually teach this, just because, again, you want them to be a citizen of the world. I don't want them to think that you're just this one, because, we're not, we all come from somewhere, right? So it's important to be, again, relatable to everyone.
Mm-hmm. So what have you seen? So how's your brother doing this with his children? Or how did he do this? Did he just give them the option to adapt whatever they want? Or did he even put like an expectation in them that you can be whoever you want as long as you maintain and sustain our ancestors' belief and traditions?
Yeah, so they have not come to that point yet, but
Okay.
I'm sure they will. They're a little more than a year old right now. But some of the things, again, that we're doing is, we're basically raising them like our grandparents and our mothers raised us, right? We're, feeding them the same foods that we grew up on. And they're watching Arabic cartoons, right? Their minds are sponges. So we would like them to have, a little bit of both cultures, right? That's incredibly important. And also, I think statistically, it ends up being good for children, being multi-cultured and have different tongues. And so, yes.
Yes, that's very, very powerful. And I think that's a great mentality to have and belief to have, because they're going to have the advantage for sure. Because, like you said, they're going to be multilingual, bilingual, they're going to be bicultural, they're going to have the ability of multicultural adaptability. They're going to be more empathetic and sympathetic to other cultures, because they're going to appreciate, hearing from your parents, their grandparents and great grandparents, all their journeys and all the stories, in order to continue the experience of humanity learning. And I agree with you. And just like I shared before, the saying that I heard, that yesterday is history, today is a mystery, tomorrow is a gift, right? So if you take that concept and you say, yeah, yesterday is history. Okay, fine, I learned from it, right? It doesn't mean it has to be part of me. Today is a mystery, brand new day. It's a blank canvas that you can create whatever you want on it. Tomorrow is a gift, because guess what? Tomorrow you get another chance to try to transform, heal, or design, or create your own core values, transform yourself in a different identity, adapt a different culture, move into a different adventure. That's all a gift, right, to us. So it's fascinating how you disrupt the mindset, especially in my experience too. I felt like I need to be one or the other, and now come to a realization at 50 plus years old that no, I can be both. And that opened so many different opportunities for me the moment I changed that mindset. And it's fascinating how you can change your mindset, and before you know it, you're experiencing new experiences, new life lessons, you're meeting new people, you're embarking on different opportunity that you never knew that universe is going to put in front of you. Look at us, we're doing our podcast. When did we meet, Yusef, on LinkedIn? How long ago?
6 months ago.
6 months ago, right? I feel like I've known you forever, because we're two people that are willing to open up and experience as much as possible through life with a unlimited mindset. And that's very, very important message. So last words, last lesson, story for our listeners. What would you like to say or add? Anything?
To finish this, again, going back to the whole cliche, if you don't know where you're coming from, you don't know where you're going. Again, it's just not words just to be said. I think direction is important, and actually knowing the struggle and what your people or family went through is incredibly motivating in and of itself, right? And should be able to kind of push you and to reach whatever dreams that you want to attain. So with that being said, thank you, Dr. Slava, for this opportunity. It's been amazing.
Yes, of course. So remember, all our listeners, if you are planning to leave your home world, come to a new world, or planning to change your circumstances, or seek different opportunities, different resources to make your life better, to achieve more, you gotta disrupt the mindset. And you need to master, and take it from me, like I said, I've been struggling, fighting the negative for over 36 years. And I finally healed only the past 2.5 years. So it does work. And the process is very, very important in order for us to heal first, to design our values in order to reset our mindset, then to transform ourselves into whatever we want to transform ourselves in order to be empowered, in order to fulfill your dreams and your goals. So mastering an unlimited mindset by eliminating limited beliefs and thoughts, that's the message of this series. So thank you for all our listeners for engaging and listening to us. Please like and share. And this will never happen without you, with your empowerment, with your encouragement, with your advocating for this series. Now, remember that this series is going to be on all podcast platforms to be available for you to listen to it whenever you want, wherever you are. And also it's going to be available on YouTube for you guys to watch. So remember, please like and share. And if you have any stories, continue telling your stories, because as you know, for us to sustain humanities, we have to keep telling our stories. Without our stories, we're not going to learn, we're not going to be inspired, and we're not going to be empowered. So please continue telling your story. And thank you so much for listening. And we hope to see you next time. Bye for now.